Failure as a path to success. Welcome to How I Broke This podcast, hosted by me, Monica De Leon. This is a show where entrepreneurs talk about their biggest failures and how they forged their path from broken dreams to true success. This is How I Broke This. Okay, everybody. So this is How I Broke This podcast. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Monica and your host for today. And in this show, I talk to incredibly inspiring individuals and share stories about their setbacks, turning into remarkable comebacks to impact the world. And today we are joined by Jeff Frazier. How are you today, Jeff?
Good morning. Thanks for having me,
Good
Monica.
morning. All right. So Jeff is a decorated U.S. Army veteran, and he's the founder of a $1 billion plus global clinical research technology company. He has also led several NGOs that have driven measurable progress in Haiti, focusing on fighting child trafficking and serving Haiti's most vulnerable and forgotten communities. Jeff's commitment and deeply moving experience led him to learn Haitian Creole and work closely with local NGOs, faith leaders, and community stakeholders on projects in reforestation, water and food security, education, and infrastructure. Last year, in April 2023, during a large food distribution mission, Jeff was kidnapped by a Haitian gang and held for 43 days, an ordeal that strengthened his resolve to help Haitians gain freedom from gang control. Now, Jeff continues to dedicate his efforts to empowering Haitian communities, helping them rescue themselves from the ruthless gangs, holding them captive, and providing them with the tools to maintain their freedom and improve their quality of life. So I just can't imagine, Jeff, how brutal that experience must have been, but you're here. So everyone, please welcome Jeff Frazier. Thank you for being on the show today, Jeff.
Oh, thanks for having me, Monica. I really appreciate it.
All right, first question I want to ask you, Jeff. Could you share with us what initially inspired you to join the U.S. Army and how your experiences there shaped your future endeavors in both business and humanitarian efforts?
Oh, you got it. Thank you for asking. That's kind of you. So I had a bit of a rough start in life. Everybody's got a sob story, you know.
Right.
Mine is my parents were divorced when I was very young, 5, 6
Mm.
years old. My mother remarried an abusive man who eventually killed her when I was 14 years old,
Oh gosh.
which of course messed me up pretty well. And
Mm.
so by the time I was uh, 19, 20, somewhere in there,
Hmm.
I decided to join the army. I needed the discipline. I was kind of all over the place. I was not interested in formal education, so going to college. I had barely graduated high school to
Hmm.
begin with. I had to run around begging my teachers to pass me on graduation day because I was not going to graduate with my class, and luckily was able to uh, persuade them to let me graduate. So I just wasn't ready for traditional education, and I
Hmm.
needed some discipline and structure to focus and mature and become a man a bit. And so
Wow.
that's why I joined the army. I often laugh. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy. I
Wow.
was hugely affected by that, and I
Mm.
got a hold of some of those CDs. I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, that you're probably too young for this,
Oh, no,
but
I was already born by that
that's
time.
that's good. That's good. So he had these infomercials that would promote this course, this kind of rah-rah
Mm.
course, and I
Right.
never had the money for it. But my I was working this job for my cousin selling his cleaning service, and I saw on his countertop was this set of CDs. They're still wrapped in cellophane and they'd never been touched. I just couldn't believe it. And I asked
Mm.
my cousin who I was working for, hey, can I borrow these? He's like, yeah, I'm not using them. And I just devoured those things. And that was in the beginning of me starting to kind of understand myself and
Mm.
you know what trauma does to you as a result of my mom's death, and how unhealthy I was being, and truly understanding some of my behaviors. And one of my remedies or attempts to kind of straighten things out was joining the army. And I had always had this hero complex of sorts.
Mm,
I wanted to change the world. I wanted to help people. Part of that certainly comes from losing my mom and not being able to be her hero, right? And so I was
mhm,
looking for a healthy way to channel that. And I remember actually walking into the recruiter, and you're supposed to pick your job in the army. Like, you don't have a lot of choices, but you do have some choices. And so he was asking me what I wanted to do, and I
mm.
actually said, I want to be a superhero, right? I'm sure I said it tongue in cheek, but so that was my reason for jumping in. I wanted
Mm.
to straighten myself out and become a superhero all in one, and it very much did that for me.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that story since you were a child,
Sure.
Jeff. So I'd like to go deeper into the business you're now in. You are the founder and now a board member as well of the $1 billion+ global clinical research technology company. It's called STEMPAC. Is that right?
No, so you're confused. So Stimpack
Oh,
is my nonprofit, and
oh,
Thread
okay. Hmm.
Thread is my for-profit
I
company
see.
that I founded.
Okay. So let's probably talk about STEM pack since
Okay.
all right. I've read that this organization initially started to combat what do you call this? Child trafficking in Haiti. You pivoted to fighting poverty through that, and after that, it went to economic development, and then shifting to advocating for security support. So, it's tremendous. And what inspired you to help the people of Haiti, and how long did it take to scale this project you currently have? Were you already involved before the huge earthquake that happened in 2010? Was it?
I was not. So I was knee deep in business at that time. I don't know that I could have found Haiti on a map in 2010.
Mm-hmm,
Around 2014, I got involved in anti-child trafficking through an organization called Operation Underground Railroad. They're now called Our Rescue.
mm-hmm,
And I had no idea that child sex trafficking was even a thing. I remember the first evening that I was really made aware, we were at my brother and sister-in-law's home for dinner, and they had just come from an event, a gala or something, where they had learned about it and then shared, their fire around the topic.
mm-hmm,
And I was in a daze. I don't remember much from that evening, other than that, and just kind of pacing around their home, just wondering what could I do. It just made me want to puke that there was such thing as child sex trafficking.
mm-hmm,
And it took me about 2 weeks to kind of get through what I called that puke phase and want to get to work. I was broke at the time. I was still building my business, and didn't have any way to donate or get too involved. But one of my companies was an advertising agency, and I said, you know what, we can bring them on as a pro bono client, and that's something we could do. And so we did, and we started building their first websites and brochures and advertising, that kind of thing, and became an advocate from that point forward. So that's 2014, and as we built my business, and I could see I was going to be able to at some point go full time as a humanitarian, and try to kind of follow in the footsteps of Bill Gates, where he just kind of dug into issues that was incredibly appealing to me. And as I saw that coming down the horizon, I raised my hand with this Our Rescue organization and said, hey, I want to get a little bit more involved. What can I do operationally? And the founder of that organization, Tim Ballard, said, we've never really been able to figure out this Haiti thing, right? We're all over the world. And at that time, they were probably in 15 different countries
mm-hmm,
and having a lot of success and making progress with all those governments. But Haiti was this Rubik's Cube that no one could ever solve. And so he said, hey, if you could roll up your sleeves and dig in there, that would be really helpful. And so I started to learn the language and went down there in 2018 for the first time with my wife and began to see things that you just can't unsee. And
Mm,
that touched our heart in a way that's tough to explain. But that's when we decided we wanted to dig in and see if we could solve this child trafficking issue, specifically in Haiti.
mhm,
And then you start to realize as you rescue one child after another, there's 10 children just like that child right behind that one. And so, at least in Haiti now, trafficking is different in different regions and different countries throughout the world. But in Haiti, child trafficking is rooted in poverty, right? You don't sell your child unless they're starving to death. And unfortunately, that's the situation for many, many families in Haiti. And so we started to realize, you know what, if we're really going to address this issue throughout the country, we've got to lift the entire country. Right? There's this
mm,
bottom layer of extreme poverty we call critical poverty. So that's someone who's going to die if they don't get food and some sort of improvement in their economic situation. And if you're in that situation, we only need to lift you a little bit. We don't need to make you
mm,
rich. We just need you to not be in that critical poverty state.
right.
And so that's what StimPack has set its sights on is lifting
Mm,
all of Haiti out of that critical poverty level. And we think we've got some solid plans to achieve that in the future.
mm. So now you're talking about um, the solid plans of doing more in the future. Going more into the project, the humanitarian projects you've been doing, Jeff, part of your introduction today was about, several projects that you've been working on in Haiti. Can you tell us more about the projects you and your team have worked on, like reforestation, water, food security,
Sure.
what else? Infrastructure deployment. Like what measurable progress have you seen from these efforts? And what are your priorities now for the development of Haiti?
Sure, no, it's a good question. Thanks for asking. It's funny. This is true to my nature, which is I'm rooted in arrogance. Right? I think that's what gives us the hope to go dig in and do audacious
Mm,
things that are very difficult, right? So I try to also root myself consciously in humility because I know my nature is way too arrogant. And here's a perfect example of that arrogance. We went down to Haiti to do our first project. We were helping an orphanage that had maybe 120 children there, and
mhm,
it had really kind of fallen apart. So we wanted to go kind of straighten things out, and one of the first things that they requested was shoes for these children so they could go to school. I said, great. And we started raising money in the US to do that. And we cleared out every Walmart in South Florida of
Wow.
their black leather shoes and fake leather shoes. So these kids could go to school. And so we brought down loads and loads of shoes. Yeah, I don't know, maybe $5,000 worth of shoes.
Mm,
And we bring them down to Haiti and we gift them to this orphanage. And so these kids will have shoes for a long time. And then I had the question, what if we didn't bring these shoes? Where would you have
mm,
bought them? Right. And because I wanted to understand the economic impact of us
right.
bringing shoes. And they pointed down the street to essentially a tabletop shoe seller, right? It was on the side of the street. And I estimated that he had maybe $10,000 in volume over the course of any given year. And so I had just brought $3,000 to $5,000 worth of shoes down and essentially decimated his profit margin for the whole
Mm,
year. I just put him out of business, right? And and once you realize the economic impact of that to that neighborhood or that village area, you start to realize the damage that you're doing. And the next trip that we were planning, we were going to bring medicine. And so I
mm,
said, where would you normally get medicines, and they point to a similar tabletop street side kind of a pharmacy, right? That has, 30 or 40 pharmacy style products. And I'm going to put that guy out of business next, right? So we started to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. How can we think about this a little bit differently? And so that's not rocket surgery. A lot of people know that are in the NGO space, you're supposed to buy local, right? If you
Right.
want to be a benefactor, at least buy local, right? So I should have brought my dollars, gone to the tabletop vendor of shoes and purchased the shoes there. But that's just an example of one of our poor decisions that we made early on. Uh, Another one in a very remote village, one of our issues is that we're trying to find villages that are particularly susceptible to child sex trafficking, so that would be targeted for kids. And so the border between Haiti and the Dominican Republic is one of those areas. And so we approached one of these villages that sits right on that border that was
Mm,
particularly poor and hungry. I mean, everyone in that village was starving and tiny and bloated bellies and the whole terrible thing. And so we went in there tried to figure out what we should do. Because of course you can come in and bring a bunch of food, but that doesn't solve the problem, right? It solves the acute issue, but we want these people to become independent. And
mm,
one of the things we learned in that village and others is this principle of GNBO, give nothing but opportunity. So
mm,
I think everyone wants to be Santa Claus, right? And show up
mhm,
with, a pile of food and gifts and shoes and medicine like we were, in the past or initially. But this principle of GMBO is where you want to give something that does not necessarily have value in the moment, but will have great
mm,
value if utilized, right?
right.
And so in this case, it was fruit trees. This
Mm,
particular region of the country has been decimated by deforestation, and that causes a number of problems. But one of the solutions would be to plant trees, but the Haitians don't value those trees because they're just trying to survive, and they
mm,
need to cook with that wood. And so, what can I plant that's of more value than firewood? And that's fruit trees. Right. And so we bought a nursery and began to plant hundreds of thousands of trees,
wow.
everything from mango to avocado, guanabana, you name it, we had it, and started planting those all over the country. And I'm excited to say that those are now beginning to bear fruit. Right? They're growing to the size that they need to start. They're all grafted, so it only takes a few years for a grafted tree to start bearing fruit. But we're just starting to see the benefits of those and those trees
Mm,
getting to size. But that's a very exciting development where in the
mm.
very near future, those villages will be able to very much feed themselves. And that's an exciting thing.
That's incredible, Jeff. The projects that you've mentioned that are in progress, and these fruit trees. By the way, I want to ask. You mentioned that you were planning to um no, not planning to, that they don't value the trees so much because they use the wood for
Mhm.
living. But what about these fruit trees? Are they being educated or taught to take care of them in the long run?
So yes, and we're doing our best. It's difficult. One of
Mm,
our initial attempts to do that was we made shirts. Many of
mm,
these villages, their clothes are falling off. They're threadbare. They're incredibly poor. And so, as part of that project, we made shirts, and on the back of those shirts, it said so. Piedbois Espoir was the name of the project. That means trees of hope. And so
mm,
it said Piedbois Espoir on the front, and on the back, it had a picture of, I think, 5 different fruit types, right? And tree types, just a little illustration. And then the math of how much money you can yield from each tree. right? So I wanted them to start seeing these trees as money makers, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
put that math there in Haitian good. That's their currency. And we're pretty proud of ourselves, and we pointed that out to a number of them and did a little bit of a class. And we're pretty excited about that approach. And then we realized that almost no one in that village can read. So
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't even read our
Wow.
shirts. So instead, we've had to shift to just classes, and I think we've done a decent
Mm-hmm.
job of that. And many of those trees should survive, for many
Mm-hmm.
years. They're definitely there now,
Right.
and but they should be there for many years.
That's awesome, Jack. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Um, okay, one more thing about Stimpack. I saw that you have a podcast
Yes.
called 43 Days to Freedom. Is that right? So this happened something happened last year. Just last year, I was super shocked about this when I read your story, April 12th, 2023. You were in a kind of a food distribution mission in Haiti during that time. And you were kidnapped by a gang and held for 43 days. And can you tell us more about this story, Jeff? I think it's an understatement to say, even say this was such a harrowing experience. So, can you tell us what did you learn from this horrendous experience about Haitian captivity? How did it influence your resolve and approach to continuously helping Haitians gain freedom from, the terrible gang control?
Mhm. No, thank you for asking. Yeah, these projects like the one that I just mentioned, they're long-term solutions, right? And to
Mm,
to solve anything, you've got to think long-term, right? And
right.
we, of course, have always tried to do that. And many of our projects currently are about economic development,
Hmm.
right? Building businesses, big businesses. So, we just talked about planting trees. That is a solution, uh, and there need to be many solutions all over the country because every region is different. And but the primary solution is an economic one, right? We've got to build their economy to be larger and stronger, uh, in order to support its population. So that is the right strategy for really solving the problem long term. But we realized last year, right before I was taken, maybe 4 or 5 months before I was taken, that all of these cute long-term strategies that we're coming up with are not going to help the people who are dying today. And things were
Mm,
getting so bad with the gangs taking over the country. So for those who are not familiar with Haitian politics at all, in 2021, the president was assassinated, and that created a cascade of events that had a power vacuum that was filled by the gangs. And so at this point today in 2024, the gangs control probably 80% of Port-au-Prince.
mm,
And in, included in that is the actual port in Port-au-Prince. And so all the food and fuel that comes in there is often stolen by these gangs, or at least kept from getting into the country. And so that
mm,
causes starvation and people dying of thirst or drinking bad water that spreads cholera. That The fuel that comes in is often intended to drive the well pumps, so to pump the water out of the ground so that people can drink water. And so if they can't get fuel, they can't get water, and people die from either thirst or cholera. So it's a terrible thing. And so that's what the situation was last year when I was taken in April 2023, was we had shifted our focus to, okay, let's stop talking about the future. Let's just talk about right now, and let's try
mm,
to get some food to these people that are going to be dead before my fancy plans come to fruition, right? And so that's what we were doing
mm,
in April. Is I was on one of these distribution missions. We had set up enough of an organization at that point where I did not need to be there at the food distributions, and I actually create a bit of a security issue being a foreigner. And
mm,
so I had decided that this was my last
uh-huh.
trip down there doing these things, and that we could just let the organization do that. But obviously, I had decided that one trip too late. So We were down in the south in an area called Jacmel, doing a food distribution mission. In order to get there, we had gone through a gang controlled area called Martissan. So in between the airport in Port-au-Prince and Jacmel in the south is this uh, city called Martissan that is heavily gang controlled. And we knew that. And so we had made an arrangement with the gang there to pay a toll to get through. That's a
Mm,
very normal arrangement. They actually have what they consider a toll booth sitting on the road, like imagine a blue beach umbrella and guys sitting underneath there on chairs with AK-47s, stacked all over.
mhm,
That's the toll booth. And on our way out, we drove by just fine, waved and proceeded. When you drive through that area, you have to have your windows down for security reasons, right? You you want to show that you're safe, right? That you're not a threat to the gangs. My windows were up to hide me, but my driver's and security's windows were down. Anyway, we proceed through, no problem. We do our food distribution mission down there in Jacmel. Things go well, and then we decide to return to do another one in a place called Cité Soleil, which is near the airport. And on our way back through Martissan, they, I guess, couldn't resist the temptation to take us. And so as
mm,
we passed the toll booth, we had no problem. But maybe a mile past there, maybe a mile and a half past there, several motorcycles drive up alongside us with weapons. They pigeon us in and cut us off and make it so that we can't drive forward, guns pointed. The one of them peeks in, sees me inside, and then waves the others to get in. And so a driver scoots my driver over so that my driver is now sitting on the center console of this pickup truck, with his head smashed up against the roof.
mm,
And then a guy jumps in the back seat with me and scoots. There's two luggage suitcases there, stacks one on top of the other. So there's luggage in between us. And then we flip a Yui. And I'm hoping at that point that we're just heading back to the toll booth. Maybe they just want us to pay more money, and I've got quite a bit of cash on me for these projects, and I'm still confident that we can do something to get us out of this situation. I'm still hopeful we're not being kidnapped. And then right before we get to the toll booth, they make a left, which is south and up the hill. And I know then that we're being kidnapped. And so we drive maybe another 5, 8 minutes up the hill and we cross into a compound. It's a 15-foot high razor wire brick wall compound. Formerly I believe it's a seminary or some sort of
mm,
a theological campus. And we get up to the top of that campus and they put us in a small, what was likely a dorm, maybe a 1,500 square foot building. And I'm put in a cell that, used to be a bedroom. Now it's, has bars on it. And there's two other guys that are already in there, and they put us in there, shake us down for our valuables. And then the terrible began. I knew that we were kidnapped.
wow. I have no words to hear that story directly from you, Jeff, but thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure all the listeners are going to look more about this. Um, so after that experience, you were released, was it May 24th of last year?
You got it.
And since then, you spent 43 days in captivity. Was that experience something that held you back from, probably not moving on with the mission anymore, or did it make you, stronger to push more and fight more for Haiti's freedom and, to just improve the entire country?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for asking. You know, it was a horrible experience. I would not have ever imagined um, being beaten and tortured and losing 50 pounds. It was truly
Wow.
horrible. But it's nothing compared to what happens to Haitians all the time. I was
Mm,
comparatively getting the VIP treatment. About by some estimates, 20% of kidnapping victims in Haiti are killed, just to keep the threat alive, right?
Mhm.
And keep the terror moving forward. I mean, these really are terrorists. They're domestic terrorists in Haiti. And that terror continues to this day. Thousands and thousands of Haitians are kidnapped all the time. It's these gangs are taking part in systematic pillage of that country, and they need to be rescued. I when I got out, it was it was a rough go, and I was given lots of tools from a very talented therapist to cope with the trauma, and I'm truly grateful for that. And about a month after I got out, I was feeling pretty good, and I was invited to a Haiti symposium or conference
Mm.
in Miami. And I didn't know if I was ready to go yet, and go and do that kind of work. But I decided it was important. The topic was security specifically, and I felt like I had something to contribute there. And so I went down, and before the event began, we were just making small talk and mingling with other conference attendees. And I was talking to one Haitian man about it, and I'm not exactly sure why I shared this that I was kidnapped, but maybe for credibility, maybe a little bit for sympathy. And so I mentioned that I had just gotten free, and his first response was, "Oh, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. I hear that's an excellent weight loss program." He's
Mm.
making a joke, right?
Oh my gosh.
He's joking about my kidnapping. So if I was looking for sympathy, I wasn't getting it. And not only that, who has a kidnapping joke, right?
Right.
Uh, the answer is Haitians do, right? This happens so frequently. They
Mm.
know many people who have been kidnapped, right? Especially this type of individual, right? Because they're going, the kidnappers are going specifically for the most wealthy people they can find. And I end up making friends with this gentleman, and during the course of our conversation, he was tracking his mom in Haiti because she was going to the grocery store, and she insisted on shopping for herself, and he was tracking her on the GPS to make sure that she got home without being kidnapped. Right, this is the reality for
Wow.
Haitians right now, right? And I want to help them more than ever now that I know just a little bit of the terror that they live with from kidnapping specifically. And then in contrast, while I was in captivity, just yards outside my cell was people who lived near these gangs and lived under their terror and oppression in that town, in that city. They
Mm.
can't leave, they can't afford to leave, and they're so poor that the gangs can't take anything from them, right? The gangs are more wealthy than these individuals. They're all starving,
Mm.
but they also can't go out. They can't do what they want to do. They can't go to, in many cases, go to church, and almost never can go to school. Their kids, they can't go to work. They can't travel freely. They can't even go to the hospital, right? That's the
Mm.
level of oppression that we're talking about in many of these gang controlled areas. And so coming to their rescue was it, I was motivated to do that on an even more visceral level. So to answer your question, it's most certainly
Mhm.
increased both my resolve and that of my wife as well. And so we're trying to do our best to leverage this experience by talking to people like you and your listeners.
Mm.
Try to raise awareness of that.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, Jeff, thank you. Thank you so much. I just have no words to say after hearing a lot of these, but I know it's been a long journey and still probably a healing process still for you and a lot of people. So thank you for sharing that story.
No, thank you.
Thank you. One more thing, Josh, I'd like to ask you about today is, this show is about failures and setbacks and how people made it through to to achieve the level of success they're in right now. The
Mm.
question I want to ask you is, was there a time I'm sure you've had so many struggles already in your life, but in your career or in life particular, where were you? Where was there a time where you struggled with a lot of challenges facing in scaling the business that you have? You thought you were going to a different direction, things weren't working well. If there was that point in your life, can you share how you recovered and rose to where you are now, continuing to help so many lives in Haiti?
Absolutely. No, thanks for asking. So I had built an advertising technology company, so a digital advertising company in 2015. We were probably about 50 people. This is in
Mm,
California, Southern California, and things were going really well. We'd had lots of moments of failure and brokenness before that, but I'll tell a particular story. So we decided uh, in 2015 to pivot the organization into a clinical research technology. And what I wanted to do was develop two divisions, one that continued making advertising tech, which was typically for medical and pharma and med device organizations. And then the other division was going to do this clinical research tech, right? And we cannibalized some of our tech team from one side
hmm
and to build this other division. And so we had Thread and Thread Research, right? And I expected those to happily march out into the sunset, and that's most certainly not what happened. What ended up happening is we were cannibalizing many of our people from our advertising side that were some of our best people, and that caused some quality issues on
mm,
the advertising tech side, and that caused us to lose some of our best clients, which caused us to have to lay off a couple of people,
mm,
which essentially made people feel like they were on a sinking ship. And so then our best people that we wanted to keep and could afford to have, they left, and then more clients left. And so, long story short, over the course of 10 months, this company that I had taken 10 years to build absolutely collapsed, and we had to
oh,
shut it down, right? And so we went from 50 people down to, I believe it was 9 people at our lowest point, and those were all on the research side. And so we ended up having to essentially focus all our efforts on the
mhm,
research side, but the research side had no profits. It only had
mm,
costs, right? It was way
right.
too early to be profitable. And so that was a pretty harrowing time where, I had eviction notices on my house and the office. It was a rough go
Wow.
there, yeah, for quite a while.
Wow. Okay. But everything is going on very well right now with the businesses and
Yeah, so
everything.
the so the turnaround
Mm,
came when I started to realize that I needed to raise money,
mm,
like a true startup. I had been in business for 10 years at that point. I wasn't familiar with startup culture, right? The Silicon Valley VC culture of going out and getting pre-revenue cash. It had never occurred to me. I wasn't familiar with it. I thought you went to the bank to get loans, and
mm,
I certainly wasn't what they call bankable, right? There's a certain profile a business has to fit to get money from the bank, and I most certainly was not that. I was pre-revenue maybe at that point, and certainly pre-profits at that point. And so I had to go the VC route and get angel money and friends and family money and raise that way. And I didn't know how to do it. So I had to very quickly find the right books and websites and podcasts that taught you how to do that and then do it and successfully raise that money. We raised a few $1 million to get us going and build the platform that we have today, or the beginnings of the platform that we have today. And luckily that all worked just barely. We were just
mm,
keeping our head above water. That was starting in probably 2016 when we started to raise money. And then by 2019 is when we sold the controlling stake in the organization. That was incredibly helpful because that brought in new talent from the private equity firm that bought us. And then that's when I stepped away as the CEO, and one of my awesome partners, John Reitz, took over as the CEO of the organization, and they're doing spectacular work now and have spread the
Wow,
team all over the globe. And there's hundreds of employees doing spectacular research now.
that's fantastic. Wow, incredible story.
Thank you.
Jeff, thank you. All right. So now, where do you see, let's say, StimPack, the NGO that you're working on right now? Where do you see StimPack and your mission in helping the people of Haiti in the future? And to all those listening right now and watching, what is something you would strongly want people to know now or be aware of about the people of Haiti and Haiti itself?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I'm really excited to begin to educate people on the opportunities that we see to turn Haiti around. You know,
Mm,
Haiti has been in trouble forever in
mhm,
throughout its history, right? It's ever since they won their freedom from Napoleon, right? That's a long time ago. They've had one struggle after another, and there are so many opportunities for Haiti to be doing quite well if the international community will engage with them properly and not create damage similar to the damage that I was doing when I was a new NGO operating in Haiti. And so we would love to begin to educate people on that. So if people will start by, if they're interested, going to the 43 Days to Freedom
mhm.
series, that's the Stimpack podcast. You can start by going to stimpack.org. That's stimpack.org. And you'll see the links in there.
Right.
But you'll hear mine and my wife's story of the kidnapping and that uh, incredibly harrowing thing, but
Mm,
you'll also get educated along the way.
mhm,
And you'll start to understand a little bit about what it means to be in captivity in Haiti as a Haitian as well as myself. And then, so that's season 2 of our podcast. Season 3 that we're just starting now, that those episodes are coming out, is much deeper, broader education on Haiti. Right, we're trying to engage and inspire and really raise up, rather than just raising awareness of Haiti. We're trying to raise an army of
mm,
activists that are ready to go to work here in the U.S. in order to bring change in Haiti. And that's not just uh, rise up and donate to an orphanage or uh, reforestation projects, although that's great too, and I hope they'll do that as well. But we're going to do some really serious advocacy here in the
mm,
U.S. In the future as well, and so we're trying to raise that army of activists to join us. So that's what I'm most excited about, is to show people that there are some pretty low hanging fruit
mm,
opportunities for us to change Haiti forever.
right.
And the way that Stimpack talks and thinks about Haiti is absolutely new. Right? This is not
Mhm.
the same old stuff about Haiti. And so really excited to teach people about those opportunities that we see.
That's very exciting, and so excited to share this to a lot of the viewers and listeners. Okay, one last thing, Jeff, before we go, when people, are watching and listening to this, they're absolutely gonna want to know more about Jeff Frazier and your remarkable mission of lifting up the lives of the people in Haiti. So, as we close up today, can you share where can we find you? Where can we engage with you on social media? Or if you have a website, to be more aware of such organizations like yours. And if people want to help out, is there a way to do so?
Yeah, so jump on to stimpack.org. That'll get you most of the links. And then we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram and X. All of those are stimpack_Haiti. And we really want to hear from our listeners. I'm new to all of this, right?
Mm,
This is essentially my third career, right? I'm still
wow.
trying to figure out how to, and especially new to being public, right?
Mm,
In the past, we haven't needed to engage with others. We're self-funded, and so we haven't needed to be public at all. And but now we have a very different mission of trying to raise up this army of activists. And so we're new to the whole podcast scene, and so I'm
Oh,
grateful for people like you to have us on, and so we want our listeners to talk to us, right, and tell
mm,
us, hey, what's working for you? What questions are we not answering? Or what are we saying
right.
right? What are we saying wrong? So that we can engage the listeners properly. And we hope that people will do that. We're not looking for mutes, right? We're looking for people
Mm,
to get on and mix it up with us and be on our team. That's what Stim Pack is,
right.
right? It's a pack of people who want to stimulate change. And
I
so
see.
we're looking
Oh.
for those activists.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about, well, why is it called stim pack? Now you just kind of
Yeah,
explained it.
that's
Thank you.
why I know it's a weird name.
No, no, it's really cool, actually. All
Thank you.
right. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing your incredible journey, from serving in the U.S. Army to founding a successful global clinical research technology company and then STEMPAC, and for your unwavering dedication to the people of Haiti and your experiences and insights that you shared today, as well as all of the failures and struggles you had, have truly been really inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Um,
Monica. I really appreciate you
yeah,
giving me the time.
I am sure everyone is deeply moved by your, incredible resilience and commitment to empowering Haitian communities. And yeah, we definitely look forward to the continued positive changes you will undoubtedly bring in those in need. And to all the viewers and listeners, I'm sure you learned something of value here. So please share this episode with others to make more and more people aware of Jeff Frazier's contribution to lifting people in Haiti and Haiti itself. So it's been a pleasure, Jeff. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you as a featured guest here, and we'll make sure to have everyone look out for you. We'll include links to find Jeff Frazier on the notes below. Um, Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and let Jeff know about your thoughts and experiences and his mission, and leave them in the comments below. So thank you so much, Jeff, and it's been truly an honor having you on the show today.